So hey everyone, my name is Joel Louzado. I'm currently Director of Product Development at rePurpose Global, which is the world's leading plastic action platform, helping brands sort of reduce waste while also bringing much needed investment into the informal waste management sector. So yeah, quite an ambitious vision. Yeah, speaking for myself, I'm actually a telecommunications engineer, graduated from BMS College in 2011. I've been a software dev for about 8 years, a product engineer for about 6 of those in various roles, various kinds of startups. So my last major engineering role was an SDE2 in Dream11's web PWA team. So then finally, I think what happened was that the final crux point was that at Dream11 we were building a product from initial brainstorming all the way through to deployment and things like that. I think for me that crystallized that okay, this is this is what I'm interested in. I want to kind of get more involved with it. So then I think I applied for a couple of positions first, and then I think that was when I got this thing of oh, should I be an MBA? Have I made a mistake? Because the way that you approach product interviews is vastly different from how you approach technical interviews. So after those initial couple of hiccups and things, and then thinking about how do I make this transition as smoothly, as efficiently as possible, I realized that I had about 6 months of runway, 7 months of runway, and I was thinking okay, if I really went through all of the content online, and there is so much content around product, I was okay, I could go through all of it. I'll take 3-4 months to digest all of it and construct a syllabus for myself. And then take another 4 months to kind of actually do that syllabus, right? And then start going to interviews. So I was I know I can do that, but I mean, I'm not trying to start an edtech company to kind of help people transition to product. And around that time was when I found Upraised. As an engineer, you're expected to produce solution, produce an answer. And taking that approach into a product interview is a recipe for disaster. You can't, I mean, it just doesn't work, right? The product interview is much more about understanding the question, setting context for yourself, gathering information even in that limited time, and then constructing a framework that can produce answers. It's not so much about the answers themselves. And I mean, I can say all of this now only after having gone through Upraised. So the initial thing was just understanding that I had these gaps, knowing that with the various options, it would take 8 months-ish if I were to do it alone. I mean, either the programs that I was finding were way too general, where it was just pure content or books or whatever, or it was it's some hyper specific, subscribe to my newsletter to understand crypto, biotech, microtransactions, PM, it's some hyper specific niche, right? So I think for me, what Upraised stood out was that KYS test was it spoke to me about what the focus would be. And then kind of the aspect of individualized curated curriculum. For me, that was the big sell. I think for me, the biggest value add is the expert interviews, where you're actually talking to PMs, and it's not, I mean, at that level of the game, you have frameworks and you have some knowledge. So it's a really interesting jump where you're talking to real PMs and they're no longer evaluating you for pure skills, because that is now those are table stakes. You have to have some skills to be able to enter that conversation. But once you get there, those PMs are evaluating you on do I want to work with this person? If we were working together on a problem, what would that be like? And that's such a different space. Getting that kind of feedback in a real interview, you don't get, there's no opportunity to have that conversation about where was I missing or not. So I think the expert interviews are a huge kind of value add. For me, the other really interesting thing that happened was I think during the soft skill building portion of things, where I think I had a conversation with Arnab about kind of, tell me, it was a simple thing. It was, I think, tell me about your journey or tell me about what you brought here. And then I gave him the whole, the spiel. And he was hey, why do you hesitate there? Why did you do you have something holding you back about that experience? Why didn't you talk about it? And, is there some shame there? And I was whoa, it just sort of blew my mind. So that his ability, I think, to go really deep in that very quick session, for me, that was a huge, a big moment, and really helped me think about my past experience and bring it into a new light in some sense. So I think those would be the two kind of big moments, in addition to the whole structured thinking piece that I spoke about earlier. APM roles, you're competing against people who are fresh out of college. So if you're a person with experience, you build products before at any level, that already kind of puts you ahead. So I think I knew that as a fact, but I didn't feel that emotionally as like a confidence thing. So when I was thinking about it, like Upraised has probably saved me like 2.5 years of time, in the sense of like, if I were to do it myself, I would have probably taken like the APM PM kind of thing, and then like grown up, like developed that thing over time. What Upraised did was sort of give me the toolkit, the vocabulary, the skill set in that sense, and then really allowed me to kind of show that I have experience and bring that up in interviews and things like that. So yeah, in some ways a big shift, in some ways sort of more of the same. It's been very interesting.